If you do not have a home church, we'd like to invite you to come to celebrate recovery. Come to Catalyst on Sunday, and we meet at 10 o'clock. We're a church that's very blessed with some great people. You've seen a lot of our praise band, Levis, Ben, and who? Dan? Yeah, no, I don't think Dan was up there, but Justin and Liz were here. So again, that's it. And then we're actually blessed again this evening. One of our church members is a licensed counselor, and she's going to spend some time talking to us about anxiety. With all the things that are going on in 2020 being such a normal year for all of us, I'm sure that we're all going through different things. So she's going to talk to you a little bit about anxiety. She'll have a question and answer time towards the end. And again, we're not pressure. We're not doing small groups. So whatever time we take tonight, we take. So again, thank you for coming. And Michelle, thank you.
Test, am I on? Okay, all right. Oh, Levis, I need my glasses. My name is Michelle Gizio, and I'm a Christian mental health counselor in the state of Delaware with Safe Harbor. Is one of the companies that I direct, and Stillwater's Counseling, which is also in Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania. It's a privilege and an honor that I get to walk alongside of a lot of people who attend Celebrate Recovery meetings as their support and as resources for them. And so it's very different for me to be up here and talk broadly to you, because usually I'm walking alongside each one, which I love. I love my job. It's a great honor to walk through life and walk through life's hardships with somebody else as they're making all the changes that you guys are making, which is just neat. So Bill had called and asked if I would talk a little bit about anxiety, just to cover it just broadly. What you know, my guess is that you experience it. So that's the one common thing, is that we all experience it. But I didn't know how much you knew about it. So I'm just gonna take a few minutes to just explain a little bit about anxiety, and then whatever questions you guys have, you can shoot them at me and I would be happy to answer them. First of all, what is anxiety? And anxiety is just the response of an individual to any situation that is perceived to be a threat. That's all that it is. It's really an overestimation of the problem and an underestimation of how well we can handle it, right? So it seems like it's a threat to us. There's a difference between worry and anxiety. Worry is kind of what we hear. Anxiety is what we feel, right? And the nasty part is the part that we feel. That's the part that we really try to run away from. There's different kinds of anxiety. You've heard about OCD, you've heard about phobias, you've heard about panic attack disorder, you've heard about different things than that, like that. Trauma really induces a whole lot of anxiety. Childhood experiences that we've had really create a lot of anxiety in us, and we deal with all those symptomatic things as we go through life that really drive a lot of our decisions and our choices, which usually lead to more anxiety. What do we know about anxiety? We know that it's the number one most common form of mental health illness. So it's really universal. I think that in one way or another, we all at some point feel like we are under threat or unsafe or uncomfortable, and it increases the way that we feel. So, but it's also highly treatable. It's highly, highly treatable, and that's what people don't really know, is that, man, I've lived with this for my whole life. I'm just so jacked up all of the time. I don't know if this is ever gonna go away. I've tried, I've done everything that I can do. I've used different resources. None of them are working, and yet what I'll tell you is if you can get a little bit of trained help, there really is a lot of hope for people that are really struggling with some anxiety. What maintains it? Why do you have it for a really long time? And here's the crazy part about anxiety, is that the reason that it stays with us all the time is because we want to resist it. right? We straight up don't like the way that it feels, and so we try to run away from it, move away from it, instead of staying in it, and it actually makes it worse for us. It actually grows our anxiety. It's kind of like quicksand. The more that you try to get out of it, the deeper that you sink, right? It's the resistance that really, that really prolongs the agony is for what it is. The only way out of anxiety is to stop trying to get out of it, believe it or not. Okay? The only way out is to stop trying to get out of it. What we resist persists, right? And so I'm going to teach you a couple other things about it. So the way that we look at treating anxiety, now that you know a little bit of overview of what it is, and I'm sure that you didn't really need me to tell you all of those things. You know what it is. But here's what it is. Anxiety has a common calling card. It wants two things. It wants to feel safe, and it wants to feel comfortable. And any time that you don't feel safe or you don't feel comfortable, what happens is that your brain, okay, here's your brain stem, here's your frontal lobe, or your prefrontal cortex, and underneath of it is this little thing called the amygdala. The amygdala is back here. It's about almond shape. It's in the back of your brain. And the way that God created us, he gave us a fight or flight mode, right? So that any time that we perceive something that's dangerous, our brain is activated to help us out of that dangerous situation. So if a big dog is chasing me, right, I need to run a little bit faster. Okay? If a ball gets thrown at my head, I need to duck a little bit faster. Right? If a big truck falls on my grandfather in the garage, I need to kind of lift it off of him. You hear these crazy stories, right? Because what happens is that when the brain perceives danger coming at it, your prefrontal cortex goes offline, your amygdala is activated, and it immediately shoots through your body all of these chemicals like adrenaline, cortisol, serotonin, all of these things immediately shoots through your body, straight to your limbic system, and you just kind of get jacked up, right? And you know what that feels like. My heart is pounding, my stomach's churning, I shake a little bit, some people sweat, I can't breathe. Some people get it caught right in their throats. It's like, I can't even breathe. And then it often leads into a panic attack, right? Where we're just overwhelmed with anxiety. Okay? That's what it looks like. What do we do to treat this? Believe it or not, and it's not hard to believe, the most common way of getting out of something like that is, I don't like the way that this feels, right? So I need to do something else to get out of how I feel right now. And I'll do anything. The very most common thing to do is just to avoid it. Well, I'm not going to think about that. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Go over here and do something. Keep my brain busy doing something else. And if I keep busy enough, I'm not going to think about this thing that makes me feel like this all of the time. Right? And so we accommodate that. And what we do is the anxiety just grows. Here's what anxiety says. Worry shows up when we're in a situation, okay? And worry takes hold of the content of that situation, and it starts talking to us as if it has something really important to say. So what it said to me today was, when I walked in here, and Levice had the video camera going, what worry started saying to me was, oh, Michelle, did you know that he was going to be videotaping? Like, it's going to be caught on tape forever, everything that you do wrong tonight, and they're probably going to broadcast it somewhere live, and people are going to be able to see it over and over and over again. And it takes hold of my imagination, and my imagination starts going with it as worry starts setting into the content of my situation. I have to speak tonight, right? And Levice has the nerve to videotape it, right? He told me he wasn't going to. So that's the content of the situation. Worry shows up because that's not real comfortable to me. And it feels a little bit unsafe. Well, guess what happens? As soon as that starts happening, my amygdala is activated. Oh, Michelle's in trouble. She needs help. She feels uncomfortable. I think she's unsafe. And worry's over here saying, Michelle, I have something really important to tell you. Like forever it's going to be out there. Probably a lot of people are going to see that video, right? And my imagination is just going to go wild. My amygdala gets activated, and guess how I feel right now? My stomach's going a little bit, and I'm shaking a little bit, and I don't like that feeling. What I could do is tell Levice, hey, I'm not feeling up to talking tonight. right? I could avoid it like that. That's not the way we do it. It doesn't lead us into the things that we need to do in life. It doesn't allow us to live to the fullest potential of our lives, and it keeps us captivated back here. So we look at those three things, and we look at, it's the ABCs of anxiety, right? And how to treat it, and how we maintain it. We look at the, what is it? We look at the activating event is what it is. The activating event, I had to speak in front of people and it's being videotaped, right? What really happens is, does that scare me? Not really. What happens is the belief about what it is that I'm about to do, right? So to speak in front of you is no problem. It's the belief of what could possibly happen if I speak in front of you. All the things that could go wrong if I speak in front of you. And it's an immediate thought that's fused with an immediate feeling. And what I think is, I'm afraid to speak in front of people. I'm really not. What I'm afraid of is that I would embarrass myself. What I'm afraid of is that somebody might see me and think I didn't do a good job. What I'm afraid of is if somebody sees me and they think that I didn't do a good job, everybody's going to know that. And they're going to think I'm a screw up. Right? So, and that is scary. That's unsafe and it's uncomfortable, right? So there you go. That's anxiety's calling card. So what do we do with that? So now I've got the activating event, I've got the belief that follows it, and then I have to do the cognition part. And what we do is we call it, we catch it, we check it, and I'm missing it. We catch it, check it, change it. Catch it, check it, change it. That's what we do. So I'm going to catch that thought. What am I really feeling? I know I don't feel good. I feel anxious about here, but what is it really? What it really is I don't want to screw up and look like an idiot in front of everybody. Right? And then I check it. Okay, is that truth? If I messed up like I just did, I forgot what that phrase was. Did you all think that I was an idiot? Or can I just kind of just check it, fix it as I go? Is everybody going to reject me because I didn't do a good job? I don't think so. I think I can maintain it. And I've done this before, and it's gone okay. I've had success in that before. And I've even messed up in front of people before, and they didn't throw me out. They didn't lambaste me. They didn't lynch me. It went okay. So see where I'm applying truth to the false belief, right? So that I can say, okay, I might not like the way that I feel right now, but I think that I can step into it and give it a shot. Right? I think that I can step into it and give it a shot. Another way that you can look at this is you can look at worry. Worry is out here, right? And if I can externalize it and look at it, what I know is expect to worry. It's the natural thing. It's going to happen. Oh, there you are, worry. I knew you'd show up. Right on time. Right on time. Right when all the people showed up, I knew you'd come, and I knew exactly what you would say because you're a one-trick pony. You're going to say, blah, 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 blah. You can't handle that, Michelle. Right? You have to get up in front of people, and whatever's worry is over there saying, you know that people are going to be watching you. Do you know that people are going to see you? Do you know that it's going to be videotaped? Do you know that people are going to judge you? Right? All of those things are going through my head. That's what worry's saying. Now, what am I going to do with that worry? What am I going to talk back to worry? How am I going to say? What I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the thought, and I'm going to check it. Is that true? And then I'm going to challenge it. Catch it, check it, change it. Okay? I've done this before. It's okay. We're all in this together. I'm no different than you. You've messed up, I mess up, we're all in this together. I'd much rather be standing down there because I don't like to be up here in front of everybody. Okay? But we can do it. And again, I've done it before, and here's what I've seen. So I can step into it again. Because to resist it and to turn away from it is only going to make me, what, next time? More nervous, right? It's going to actually grow my anxiety because I'm going to know now, see, it didn't work last time either. That was really uncomfortable. what we have to do is we actually have to turn and face what worry's telling us. We've got to understand, okay, I hear what worry's saying, and I feel what it's doing to me. It's just chemicals. That feeling that we get, it's just chemicals. That's all that it is, based in an uncomfortable thought. I don't like what I'm thinking right now. What if we could alter the thought? What if we could apply something to it that was changing your story? So I worked with a young girl this week, and she was trying out for her field hockey team. And she was so nervous that her mom brought her in, and we were talking about it. And I said, okay, what's going on? Okay, and what's the fear? I'm afraid I'm not going to make varsity. Okay, well, what would that mean if you didn't make varsity? Okay, well, that would just be really embarrassing, because probably all my friends would make varsity and I would make JV. Okay, well, what makes you think that? Because last year I tried out for the team and I made JV. Oh, and how did that feel? Well, that was really embarrassing. Everybody else made it and I was left behind. So you see where her activating event is, trying out for the team. What's her belief? I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be good enough, right? Okay, so we took it over here and we said, okay, let's challenge it. Let's capture that thought. Let's check it. Is that true? What happened last year when you tried out for the team and you made the JV team? And she just kind of rolled her eyes. She was 15, so she does it well. Right? I said, what happened? She said, well, I played on the JV team. I said, and then what? She said, well, I got pulled up to varsity after the first game. I said, and? She said, I never played JV the rest of the season. And I never sat during the varsity game. And, because her mother had already told me, so I knew to keep pushing. And I won an all-conference award. I was recognized by the entire conference for being one of the best players in the conference. I said, so let's go back and check. What do you know? She said, well, when I made the JV team, I was so upset that I worked and worked and worked really, really hard, and it made me get better and better and better, right? Until I was here. So what do? Can we possibly take that thought and what you did and apply it to your current situation? Yes. Okay. The knowledge that she's done it before, she did see some success in it. They're not all as successful as that, but that was a great story, right? Okay. And can we step into doing this? Yes. Okay, so we convinced her to do it. Do you think that she could imagine that she was going to try out for the team the next day without any fear, without her stomach churning, without her hands shaking, without that physiological response? Absolutely not. She was still scared. She still had the feeling, right? The feeling's not going to go away. Why? Because she feels uncomfortable and she feels a tad bit unsafe, even though we applied truth. Okay? What she had to learn to do is she had to do it afraid. She had to lean into, I know I feel uncomfortable, it's just chemicals. That's all that it is, because I have a scary thought. I'm going to catch that thought and I'm going to change it to be more based in truth. That's what the word tells us, right? We're to captivate our thoughts and bring them all captive under an obedience to Christ, right? And we can apply truth to a lot of situations like, well, I'm not going to be able to do it, or I'm going to ask this girl out. I don't want to ask the girl out. I do, but I don't want to get the rejection, so I'm not going to. Okay? I want to get out of this relationship, but I don't know what I'm going to get if I'm out of the relationship, so now I better just stay in the relationship, right? There's different things that we have to tell ourselves, and we've got to challenge ourselves because of the fear that we have when we're in it. And we've got to do it anyway. We've got to do it afraid. We've got to do it when we're uncomfortable. We're not ever going to escape the chemical release into our bodies that makes us feel calm. Expect it. That's how God created your brains. Be thankful. Thanks God that I've got this great fight or flight going on here. I appreciate that my brain is working right. I need it to shut down a little bit because I can't hardly function. But the more that you practice doing that, the more that you practice applying truth and stepping into things, guess what? The more confidence you gain in knowing you've got another track record for success. I did it. It was scary, but I did it. I did it and I failed, but it wasn't really that bad. I didn't lose an arm, I didn't lose all my friends because I messed up. Can you kind of follow along with what I'm trying to teach you? Right? So I worked with a pastoral couple this week, and they're literally, their church is blowing up. They're losing their church. It's like this massive takeover. They're so upset. They've put 20 some years into this church, and it just seems like it's all crumbling apart. And the anxiety that both of them are going through is just they're heartbroken. They feel betrayed. They feel alone. They feel like all this, and it was worth nothing, and I'm not appreciated. And at the end of the day, I wasn't good enough to keep my church going. And we had to catch that thought, right? And we had to challenge it. What are we going to challenge it with? Come on. When did you stop believing that God wasn't in control? Right? He's in control. Could we possibly look at this situation and apply a different truth to it? That all things work together for the good, right? That there's nothing outside of his sovereign plan. That he knows the end from the beginning. That you don't take one step that he doesn't know already about. Now, when you apply that truth, does it make the situation that you're in a little bit more doable? Yes. Right? Now, are they comfortable? Not really. They're not. But is it more doable? Yes. And that's what we're looking for. And as they plod forward, even in their discomfort, they keep moving in that linear progression of healing, of forward movement, instead of being mired back here in our fear, or worse, running away from it. Deep breath. The common way of trying to get out of things is to resist it, avoid it. I don't want to think about it. I don't feel good when I think about it. I don't want to do it. I'm out of here. Right? That, again, is never going to resolve your anxiety. It's only going to make it worse. It's going to grow it. When you can sit in it, that feeling, when you can make friends with it, when you can let it wash over you and you can continue to think in your mind, I know what truth is. I know I don't like this feeling. It's kind of being in a movie theater, right? And watching, and a big shark coming up on the screen, and it's like, oh, and eventually the shark goes away. You sit in that anxious feeling and let it go over you. Make friends with it. Become acquaintances with it. Stop trying to make it go away. It's not going to go away. But sit in it and just begin to apply truth, apply knowledge, and to move forward anyway in that, knowing that I'm going to move forward even though I feel uncomfortable. It's going to begin to dissipate your anxiety. That's it in a nutshell. Now, each person, as they come in and they work with me, everybody's different. And we work on resourcing. Okay, yeah, but this still messes me up. All right, well, let's talk about that. And you'll have a counselor that will walk beside you and help you process every little thing that still got you stuck, or still got you jacked up a little bit, or still is like, I've got these random panic attacks. They can work through all of that with you. But the overall consensus of treating anxiety is staying in it. Stop trying to get out of it. Understand that it's okay to feel this way. It's just a physiological heightening of your body because chemicals are going through it. Right? If we can capture the belief that's making me uncomfortable about the event, and we can apply truth to the belief, that's where we're going to be able to start resolving some of the ways that I feel. And the more often I do that, and the more often I practice that, the better I get at it, right? And with every little thing, we track more successes. I grow more confident in it. I become more empowered in it. I've got more successes to go on, and eventually your anxiety will begin to diminish. It really does. So, do you have any questions? Go ahead. Hmm. Hmm. So is there a specific age when anxiety begins? Um, no, no specific age. You never know. Experience usually dictates anxiety for the most part. There's some percentage that it's a biological thing, but for the most part, experience dictates what it is. So if you've got a 5-year-old who's had a very sheltered, wonderful, supportive, loving, safe environment that they were raised in, they're probably not going to be anxious. But if you've got a kid that has been in a chaotic environment from the time that they were born, they're going to be highly anxious, right? Right. So things happen as you age, especially women, as we go through all kinds of hormonal changes, and that can have an effect on it. But there's no specific age when it starts. Nope. Anybody else? What's that? I don't know what your experience was up to that point, so I don't know if that's past trauma that's coming to visit you. If it's something that's biological, more because of the withdrawal from the meds, which it very well could be. Um, I don't know the answer to that specifically, but it could be either one of those things. It could be. Lots of times we have unresolved trauma in our lives that we don't even remember. Like if you have ever watched a documentary or something where somebody says, yeah, this horrible stuff happened to me and I just started remembering it. And I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I thought, there's no way that they can't remember something so horrible that happened to them. And it really is true. You suppress memories, and there are many, many, many things that people are dealing with that are coming back to them even slowly in later years in life that they did not ever remember. And so there's all kinds of events like that. Trauma is very, very, very it's a very great inducer of anxiety. And it's kind of different than just normal physiological anxiety about a moment. So, but trauma is huge. So if you've grown up in a more chaotic environment where you weren't resourced, where you didn't have that safe and comfortable feeling of having somebody have your back and not being on your own and alone and having to survive on your own, then you're probably going to be more prone to anxiety when you're older and when you're younger. Anybody else? Oh, OCD, phobias, all kinds of different phobias about different things. Um, there's panic disorder. I think that I listed those. General anxiety disorder. There's, like I said, a large amount, very much based in trauma. There's attachment disorders that really end up with a lot of anxiety disorders, but those are just a few of them. But the phobias cover a lot of them because there's different things and then there's subsets of them. So you've got all kinds of things like people who pull their hair out, trichotillomania, people that pick at their skin, dermatillomania. There's all kinds of different things that people do in order to cope with how they feel. If I do this, it kind of helps me not focus on how I'm really feeling. And so there's all kinds of things like that. It absolutely is. And I've looked over that list, and for me, as a clinician, I'm looking at it, and that's a lot of symptoms rather than that's not really, like what you're looking at is a lot of the symptoms of really what the underlying problem is. So I've got this underlying problem, and I feel this way, and I'm going to do this over here to make me not feel this way anymore. If I can just kind of numb my brain, if I drink enough, I'm not going to remember these horrible memories that keep coming back to me, or I'm not going to feel like a total piece of crap all of the time because of what my father used to say or do to me. If I can, and again, sometimes they can be good things. I can stay super busy and I can be super, successful financially, and I can do all of this, and I turn into a perfectionist. You've got people pleasers, we've got perfectionism, we've got all kinds of avoidance things, diversionary things. All of the things are to make ourselves feel better, to make me more comfortable in my own skin so that I don't have to. It all comes back to the mind. It really does. It really does. So some of the truths that we know is, thou will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast on thee. In Romans, he tells us, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by what? The renewing of your mind, right? It really, really continues to go that. Love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, right? He gives us the peace that passes all understanding, that guards our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus. There's so much that comes back to it's a mind thing. It's a mind thing. And I'll tell you why. We've got an enemy that prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, right? When you think about, like, I used to watch the old animal shows on Sunday nights with my mom and my dad, and my favorite was when there was the watering hole, because all the different animals would be there. And eventually what you would always see is in that tall savanna grass, if you looked really carefully, and they'd play the real scary music, right? And you'd see like a lion there, and he'd be stalking. Which animal is he gonna get, right? And then you would see him take off after all of these things, and all the animals would scatter. Did the lion ever go after the strongest, fastest gazelle? Who did he go after? The weakest one. He went after the baby, or the one that was crippled, or the really old one, or the one that got a big chunk of his butt bit out by hyenas the night before. Never, ever, ever does the lion go after the best one. He goes after your weakest place. Your greatest vulnerability is where the enemy is going to live and thrive. In your greatest vulnerability, your greatest fear, your most horrible experience, your lowest thought that you have in self-deprecation about yourself, that's where the enemy's going to go. And he's going to attack relentlessly. He'll never stop. He's out to seek, destroy, and kill you. Take every bit of joy. Jesus said, I have come that you might have life and what? And my life abundant. That means on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10. If I'm offered a 10, I'm not going to be settled for the 2 that I'm living at. I'm not even going to be settled for 6. I'm going to scratch and claw my way up to abundance. That's what I'm offered. And Jesus said, you can have that. Why do you keep going back to the empty cisterns? Why do you keep going back to the stuff that's leaking? It's never going to fill you. He gets it. He knew exactly what we would do. He created us. He knows how we work. Why do you keep going back to what's not going to satisfy you? You drink from me, you'll never thirst again. You'll never want that stuff again. You won't need that stuff anymore because I'm going to fill you fuller than you could ever imagine. But you're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to fight and apply all the truths that you can to your vulnerabilities. Because if we live in our vulnerabilities, we will live anxious for the rest of our lives. We've got to resource that. Where are you weak? How are we going to apply truth to that, dude? How are we going to apply truth to that? You're afraid to be alone? Okay? You're never alone. You're afraid to not be good enough? Let me take you through some scriptures and teach you how valuable you are. He knows my name. He never leaves me. He goes before me and behind me and beside me. I'm not alone. He calls me his child. His blood flows through my veins. I'm something. At least to him I am. Maybe not to my earthly father. Maybe not to my earthly mother. Maybe I've been beaten down and taken advantage of and hurt and discarded. And I feel the way that I feel. It's not true. Catch it, check it, change your story. Apply truth to that, and then stand firm in it. Are you going to be scared? You better believe it. Hang on. White knuckle those verses. White knuckle the truth. But move forward in it. You've got the power of the Holy Spirit who lives inside of you. That same power that raised Jesus from the dead can help me get through my mundane day. He can. And the more that I do it, guess what? The more that I learn that, wow, he did it again. Wow, he met that need. Wow, he really is what he said that he is. One little baby step at a time. One of my favorite stories that I've ever read talks about a concert that was being put on by a famous pianist named Paderewski. I had never heard of him, but it was a black tie affair, and these parents had just started their son taking piano lessons, and they thought it might be a good idea to let him go see this amazing pianist at work on the center stage. And so they took him. She was in this beaded gown, stunning. The dad was in a tux. They had rented a tux for the little boy. And really, as they walked in with this little 8-year-old, everybody was kind of looking at them because it really wasn't a place for a kid. And as the mom and dad figured out where their seats were, they started trying to go in, and no one was really happy with them. They knew it. They could hear the whispers. And as the mom and dad were there, all of a sudden they heard this, from the hushed voices, they heard things like, "Who's that? Who's doing that? Whose kid is that?" And that's when the mother looked up, and the 8-year-old boy was sitting at the piano in the center stage. And he began to play the only thing that he had learned, chopsticks. Dun 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 dun. And the mom and the dad couldn't get out. They were stuck. People were mortified and nasty. Whose kid is that? Who brought him here? How dare they? When Paderewski ran from the side, and he came up behind the boy, and he put his hands on both sides of him, and he stood behind him, and he began to improvise all around that chopsticks, all over the keyboard. And as he stood there improvising, he whispered in the little boy's ear, "Keep going, son. Don't give up. Keep playing. Don't stop. Keep playing." I love that picture of God. Guess what? You aren't enough. You're not. None of us are. But we don't have to be in relationship with God. He improvises all around us. He makes it okay. He fills in the holes. We don't have to be enough. We're loved just as we are. Our greatest resource is a relationship with God. There's a lot of other ones, but that's the biggest one, because you'll never be okay without that. Okay? Know your vulnerabilities. Know how the enemy attacks. Okay? Resource your vulnerabilities. Know that it's going to be scary. Catch your malformed beliefs. Check them with truth. See a counselor, learn some techniques, learn some tools, get a support group, and keep taking the next step. Oh, it's a fantastic resource to know that you can't change anything. We really don't have control of anything except our own character and integrity. That's what we have control of. And my own personal choices, I have control of that as well. Right? But great resources. It's not, I don't mean to say that, hey, just believe in Jesus and all your problems are going to go away and you're going to feel better. That's not true. He's given us great knowledge scientifically that, hey, come in, learn some breathing techniques, learn how to take, and how to dissipate and how to fragment your brain when you're having a panic attack. Learn some of the techniques of grounding yourself so that you learn how to deal with the anxiety. That's all the scientific stuff, and he's given us great knowledge, and there's a lot of things that you can do. You pair that up with the theological side of it and the reality of life, now you've got a good mix of how you go about your anxiety. But there's all kinds of things that a counselor can teach you that are straight up scientific techniques, color breathing, guided imagery, different things that I could sit here and teach you how to make your heart rate slow down, just like snipers do. The Army teaches snipers to do it because they have to still their bodies, right? Because if they even move one iota, it could throw their shot off, a mile from there, 50 feet. So they've got to quiet themselves. Well, you can learn that in counseling. When I have kids in with counseling, the very first thing that I teach them when they have anxiety is how to think their hiccups away. And I just give them a technique to think your hiccups away. And then I tell them, and when you get the hiccups in, I want you to text me and say, Miss Michelle, I thought my hiccups away. The empowerment that comes in knowing that they can apply thought to change an involuntary thing in their body, okay, we can then apply to, how about when you're nervous? How about when you're having a panic attack? How about that? Can you think yourself into a state of calmness? Okay? So there are scientific things. It's not just a Band-Aid on it of just serve Jesus and everything's good. Okay? We need that, but you can use all of the other things too and bring it in order to get yourselves into a stable place. Did you have a question? That's a good question. He asked, how do I counsel somebody that is not a believer? And what I'll tell you is that the biggest thing is that I advertise both of my businesses as a Christian counseling agency. So I'm always a little bit curious as to why somebody is coming to me when I advertise as that. Lots of times they come because my specialty is trauma, and so they'll come for that. How do I do it? I'm sneaky. I'm real sneaky. Go ahead. Do you know that I took special classes in school for stress and trauma care for the military, for military affairs? Because what my plan was to come out of school and to work for the government and to work with soldiers. I have so much respect for our military, coming back from combat and assimilating into civilian life. That was my plan. That it didn't work. God wanted me to do something else. So I've got the experience and the know-how to do it, but to be honest with you, he's really kept me, I really don't have that many, a handful over the years that I've done it. So my PTSD clients are more, it's usually sexual trauma and domestic violence. So that I see more of that than I see of combat. Oh, well, now I'm going to step out and I'm just going to be Michelle instead of a counselor, right? So I'm not going to speak from a counselor's point of view. And I'll just give you my personal opinion is that without Jesus, we don't have hope. And when there is hopelessness, there is great propensity for people to take their own lives. I believe that the statistic is actually 22 a day, not 22 a month. And it's a horrific amount of our military taking it. What I'll tell you is that it's because they struggle with a disorder called PTSD, which is absolutely a brutal disorder to deal with if you don't have help. If you don't get good, sound help, and the sanctions that they're putting on our psychologists that are working with our military and the veterans, some of them are only allowed to be seen for 15 minutes at a time, which is, it's ludicrous. So I think we're failing miserably, and it makes me very sad, but I do think that we're failing miserably. PTSD, there is no cure for. If you know anything about PTSD, it occurs with extreme trauma, and you will deal with symptoms that are very difficult to deal with, flashbacks and memories and nightmares and all kinds of things that really can plague a person. If you are dealing with that, please get help. There is help for those things in learning how to manage the symptoms. So it's not that you can go to a counselor and they can cure you. There is no cure. But our tactic for PTSD is we learn how to manage what's happening to me, manage what's going on so that what's this big in my life, I can make this big in my life, and I can get it to a manageable state so that I have hope. If you're just going raw at PTSD and you have nothing and no support, it is a very hopeless situation. So I hope that answers your question. A little bit? Okay. Most therapists right now during COVID are seeing everybody virtually. So you're going to look at telehealth. I don't know if you have insurance. A lot of the insurance companies are paying for the sessions completely right now. So a lot of people I know, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Medicaid are paying 100%. So you can just find a therapist, and if you need help finding one, connect with me, and I'll see if I can't hook you up with somebody. Sorry. She's 20 months now. You have to look at developmentally, what is a kid like developmentally at those times. I am not a child expert, so I would tell you AI DuPont has a great behavioral management program. I would call them and ask them that same question, because I would feel wrong answering that question for you. But I do know developmentally, people are at certain ages a certain way. Mhm. Right? Trauma can start pre-verbal. Remember, the two things that start with anxiety is they have to feel safe, I have to feel comfortable. If they have things going on around them where they don't feel safe and they don't feel comfortable, even pre-verbal, babies can pick that up. So I just don't know if they can be counseled, because they don't have the cognitive ability to counsel, but I don't know what can be done, right? That's why I don't like to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. AI really is a good place to go. There's also a great Christian play therapist from Lighthouse Counseling in Media, and she's great. She's great. Anybody else? No? All right. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.